Hey, everybody, thanks for joining us. We have a special guest today, a bona fide rock star, John Corabi. He has a fantastic new book out called Horseshoes and Hand Grenades. You may know him from Motley Crue, his solo work, Union, Rat, Dead Daisies, a myriad of things out there that you've done rock-wise. But I don't want to give too much away on the book because the book is literally a five-star book. It's fantastic. The reason I'm having you on today is because there's two things that really stuck out for me. I'm in the logistics and trucking industry, and you had a couple stints in this, and it's not gone. You don't dig deep into it in the book, but I wanted to pick your brain on your experience. Why you went into it, and talk about that. So if we could start with your courier experience. I know you've moved out to LA from Philadelphia, and
Yes.
yeah, you did it to get yourself on the feet as your band, The Screen, started going up the ladder, correct?
Yeah. Well, we originally from Philadelphia, like I said, and moved out to LA in 1985, and one goal in mind, and it was just to, get a record deal, be a rock star for whatever, all intents and purposes, and it worked. I mean, I did it. Um, I did the Scream for, obviously we played, well, prior to the Scream, I moved out with another band called Angora, and we became very popular in the club circuit in LA. It didn't work out. Some of the members were dealing with drug issues and different things like that, and then that fell apart, and then I put the Scream together, finally got a record deal, did the whole touring thing. And then I got the phone call that changed my life with Motley Crue, where they had called me and said they were looking for a singer and they wanted me to come down and jam with them. And I did that, and so on and so forth. The rest is history, if you will. But I guess I was in the band Rat, kind of playing guitar with them and touring quite a bit. And we had about a year off, and I think it was maybe 2002, 2003. And I was also going through divorce number 2, and it was weird. I just had this weird thing where I was like, I just needed some headspace. I wanted to kind of get out of LA for a minute and collect my thoughts. And I knew I wasn't going to be working for a year, which, again, not to be weird, I was sitting there going, well, how am I going to pay my bills for the next year? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
There's two things that I had always been fascinated in growing up as a kid. One was trains, like freight trains. I'm like, still to this day, I'm 63 years old, and still to this day, like, I will literally sit at a train crossing and like count the cars and look and see how many box cars there is, how many liquid cars there are, flatbeds, like all this other stuff. And I'm just neurotic about trains,
Yeah.
and I've been neurotic about trucks. So I just kind of went through the paper, and initially I wanted to see about just getting out of town, just doing something different for a minute. And so I tried to look into the train thing, to like, how do I be maybe an engineer or something working on the train lines. And then I realized, it was like a long amount of schooling was needed to do that. And then I looked at the truck thing, And I called up a couple places in like San Bernardino, California, like trucking schools. And I couldn't believe it. I was like, oh shit, I can do this in like 3 weeks. I can take the class in like 3 weeks. I can't remember the name of the company that I did the schooling with, but they were based out of San Bernardino. I went there. I literally paid them, pulled my hair up, put it in a baseball cap, grew a beard, and I did the class. And I got to be honest with you, man. Pardon my French, but I had a fucking blast. It was awesome.
Yeah.
Like, you know, there's a whole other sense of like driving one of those trucks. I just kind of felt like you're sitting way up high and you're just moving this massive piece of machinery. And it just kind of gave me this sense of freedom, but also power. Do you know what I mean?
Right.
It was pretty cool.
Yeah, very cool. Yeah, it made me realize my one in my industry, my one brush with rock and roll is we were doing a lot of film work out of LA shipping, and we did one of the videos for Aerosmith. We had to do the tape, and I got Steven Tyler. Steven Tyler signed his receipt as Steven Tallarico. It was cool, so I saved that. But no, it really resonated with me. So. You know, a lot of people have this, and I had this for a while. You know, you were in Motley Crue, you think you're set for life, but that wasn't the case. And I don't want to give too much away with the book because everybody go out and buy the book. It's called Horseshoes and Hand Grenades. But you were in a place where you decided you had to make some ends meet and go for the CDL and drive a truck for a while.
Yeah, and it was weird. Like, you know, that's one of the things everybody assumes, you know, because I did the Motley thing, that I was like a multimillionaire. And, you know, and it was funny. I made money when I first joined Motley. You know, I got bonuses and publishing and, you know, all these advances and stuff. But at the same time, like I joined Motley in 1992 and I left the band in 97. And in that 5 years, like my son was diagnosed with diabetes. My mom had been diagnosed with cancer. You know, so unfortunately, I wound up taking care of them financially. You know, and then there's the normal shit. You got to pay your taxes. You know, I remember, there was two tax checks that I wrote. One, you know, my first one was like, you know, $139,000. And then the following year, I had to spend like $219,000 in taxes.
Wow.
And I was like, wow, okay. You know, so by the time the 5 years had passed, I lived off of that money and beyond, but I was starting to get dangerously low. You know, the music industry was changing. A lot of the 80s bands weren't selling any records. So it was a weird time. And to be honest with you, the whole reason why I did it, I mean, I wasn't in dire straits financially. I just had, like, again, Rat was taking a year off. At that point, I think I was paying, you know, child support and alimony. I was paying like $2,500 a month. But I was going through a second divorce, and it was like this push and pull thing, like where the girl would come back, then she would disappear, then she would come back. And I'm like, oh my God, like I just needed and wanted a little bit of a change. So I was like, all right, I can get a trucking license in 3 weeks. And I'm going to learn how to do this. And I literally, when I say, you know, the endorsements, which you know what I'm talking about, I literally had every endorsement you could think of. I had the hazardous materials, flammables, doubles and triples. I had the, you know, the endorsement to, you know, drive tankers. And I just said, you know what, if I'm going to do it, I'm going to do it. And so I did the school, passed my test. Then I made up resumes and all that shit. And I wound up getting a job with, God, there was one company, what's the company, the trucking company? They're a very Christian based trucking company. I can't remember the name of them offhand.
Yeah.
But they're Christian based, and it was weird. Like they were at like in the resume when they reached out to me, and when I saw the thing, it was like, you know, they were asking things like, "Are you divorced?" Like, you know, asking me like there was like personal things in the thing that I didn't necessarily feel comfortable answering, so I kind of blew them off. And then I got a call from Werner Trucking. I reached out to them. I talked to them. I went down to their office in, I believe it was San Bernardino,
Okay.
and filled out the paperwork. They assigned me you have to drive with a kind of instructor for 300 hours.
Yeah.
And I had this gentleman named Shane Ahrens. He took me out in the coach. We went out in a Peterbilt, and first couple days they only let me drive during the day, and he basically critiqued my driving. Then the following week he was like, nope, he's good to go. He can drive anytime. So I did 300 hours in a month.
Holy cow. Yeah.
I was literally driving like 10 hours a day for a month. And then, they dropped me off in Dallas. They assigned me a truck, and I was off to the races. And I got to be honest with you, I fucking loved it. I just sat there. I had a guitar in the back. I got myself a little TV and all the necessities for the back of the sleeper area.
Yeah.
And I carried a guitar with me, and I would do my thing, and I would sit for a few hours and just play the guitar. And I started working on song ideas and different things like that. But I was telling a friend of mine not long ago, I said, it's weird. I spent most of my life traveling in a tour bus. But you're usually traveling at night, and you see shit in a tour bus.
Yeah.
And I could not believe like some of the places that I saw driving that truck and just moving goods around the United States. I'm like, wow, like there's parts of the United States I've been literally touring my whole life, and there was things that I had never seen before until I started driving a truck. And I had a fucking blast. I did it for almost a year. And then Rat called and said, hey, we're getting ready to go back out on tour again. And I called my boss and at Werner, and I just said, hey man, I'm going back to touring. And it was funny. He was like, because a lot of people didn't know who I was, or they didn't know anything about my history. When I told my boss, I said, hey, I'm going to go back to touring again. He was like, what are you talking about? And I said, well, I'm actually a musician. And I told him who I was and all that stuff. And I just handed him the keys back. And I said, thank you. I had a great time. It's been awesome. I'm going back on tour again. So I did it for almost a year. And, it was cool. Mentally, it cleared my head because I was just driving and thinking and mapping things out in my head. And then I made a really decent living, and I had health insurance for me and my son. And it was cool, man. I had a great time. It was awesome.
So what were your main routes, and what were you hauling?
Dude, everything.
Right.
Well, for Werner, it was more container stuff. You know what I mean? Like I didn't do a lot of flatbed stuff. No tankers. There was a couple of times that I had to do some hazardous materials, but not that often. It was usually picking things up at like from Walmart or, whatever. But I was hauling everything, man. I went down to Houston and I picked up a load of oil. I guess it was in barrels in a container, so, and then there was another time I was kind of dumbfounded. I had to pick up something at the Purina. I think it's in Nebraska.
Right.
And kind of grossed me out a little bit because I was picking up rations for the soldiers overseas. And I was picking it up from Purina, which is synonymous with dog food.
Right.
But I had to literally pick up a load in Nebraska, and I had to take it to it was called the Nashville Pier in New Orleans, and drop it off at a boat, and so it was cool. I again, I saw a lot of shit, and traveled all over the United States, and it was kind of fun. It was cool.
Excellent. Well, no, thanks for sharing that with us. Now to the book. How are you doing are you doing a tour at all? Are you doing any meet and greets or?
They're still setting some stuff up. They're obviously.
I mean, I can't say enough about it. I've read all types of rock biographies, and it's a 5-star book. It's just great stuff. Because the thing that I love about the book is that it's not all sex, drugs, and rock and roll, and you go in the different the way you grew up and how it formulated into certain songs, and it's just a great life lesson to never give up and keep on persisting.
Yeah, and that's all. Honestly, if anybody Wikipedia's or Google's my career, I've had a great career and I'm still going. You know what I mean? So I'm very grateful for that. But at the end of the day, I've just been this guy that's just kind of been at the right place, but always at the wrong time. For whatever circumstances. But I love doing what I do. I love writing music. I love creating music. I love touring. But it's just been, I'm still waiting to write that song that's going to put me over the top and make me the household name, like, Steven Tyler or Mick Jagger or Robert Plant, one of those guys. But I just wanted to be honest, though, too. There's so many misconceptions about being a musician. Like a lot of the fans, like I was saying earlier, they just automatically assume, oh, he was in Motley. He's got a huge house, probably drives a, Ferrari, and he's millions of dollars in the bank. And it's not always the case. And so I just wanted to be honest. Like, I don't have the typical VH1, those behind the scenes stories.
Right.
Like, band gets together, a bunch of high school kids get together, they do the, club scene, they get a record deal, they become huge, the egos start coming into play, they start doing drugs, they break up. 5 years later, they realize they need each other, they get back together, they're bigger, better, faster, and clean and sober, and and they live happily ever after. I don't have that story at all. So I just wanted to be honest about it. I was a little nervous that the book might be boring to some, because I don't have that story.
That's far from boring. And the way you grew up just was. I grew up in Chicago, and a lot of the same stuff, and that Catholic upbringing, and yeah, it just resonated with me on that end as well.
Yeah, and it's just, you know, I mean, I don't know how old you are. I'm 63, but it was funny. Like for the first 8 or 10 years of my life, man, it was truly like the wonder years,
Right.
where, neighbors watched each other's kids. If you ran out of peanut butter, you could just go across the street to your neighbor's house and borrow some. And everybody knew everybody knew what everybody was doing, and everybody kept an eye on it. It was like that old adage, it takes a village to raise a kid. It was that mentality. And then it changed. I don't think that, as great as that life was, it kind of didn't prepare me for some of the other shit that was about to happen or come up in the future. But it's just, again, like, I just wanted to get my story out there. I wanted to, again, through all my trials and tribulations, I still believe in myself. I still feel like I haven't written my Sergeant Pepper's record. The best is yet to come. Like, so, my wife tends to get a little upset with me because she's like, you always look through rose-colored glasses with everything. And I'm like, well, I kind of have to. That's just that's my way of coping. That's my coping mechanism. Fuck, this thing didn't happen. It didn't work out the way that I thought. Well, you know what? I'll just keep going, and at some point another door is going to open and I'll walk through it and life will be groovy. But it is what it is. I just, again, it is the tale of perseverance, because I'm still trying at 63 to become kind of a household name in the music industry. But again, if it doesn't work out, I can always go back to trucking.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. Well, John, I can't thank you enough for coming on with us and talking about that. Once again, the book is Horseshoes and Hand Grenades. We're best. I mean, iTunes, Barnes and Nobles, Amazon. That's what it is.
It's everywhere. Actually, I believe, the hardcover book just came out maybe a month ago. They're actually setting up, the longer it gets out, we're starting to do the interviews. There's requests for me to do like book conventions and different things like that. But the audiobook is coming as well. I did a full audiobook. It's my voice. I'm reading the whole book. So it's out there. Anywhere.
What's the best place for people to find you online?
JohnCorabi.com.
All right.
John Corabi Official on Instagram, John Corabi Music on Facebook, and Crab Legs 59 on Twitter.
Beautiful. Well, John, thank you so much for joining us. Once again, the book is Horseshoes and Hand Grenades. Get it out now. Find all of get that awesome Motley Crue album. Look up Union. His work on Rat on YouTube, the Dead Daisies, everything else. It's just all awesome. I can't thank you enough for being with us.
And I do have a little side note before you go. I do have a couple new songs on Spotify right now. One is called Casi Bella, and the other one is called Your Own Worst Enemy. So they're all on all the digital download sites as well. So.
All right. Well, thanks, John. Have a great day. All right, man.
Awesome.